We have our three states: ventral, sympathetic, and dorsal. We also have blended, where we take two states together and blend.
Those blended states are beautiful. And I love how you said that this is a language we're learning.
And when I was writing the book, what I really came to understand is sympathetic is that disorganized energy. And I think a lot of our students, and a lot of students you all work with who are on the call today, your students are in sympathetic. They're in that fight or flight, and it's not necessarily it's fight or flight, but it's also just chaotic. That energy that they have, they're looking for a way to organize it. That's what they're asking for. And so if we can provide activities that help organize that mobilization, then we can get into what I call, and what I called in the book, organized play, because play is really nourishing to the nervous system. But organized play is a combination of ventral with sympathetic. So you have to have some mobilization, which is sympathetic, along with that ventral energy, that kind of organized energy. Those together create organized play. And so when we're doing the activities that we're doing, like we're doing our arrow moves and we're clapping and we're saying those words, that is just such a fast way to organize those nervous systems in your classrooms when students are in that sympathetic. It is disorganized mobilization, and you have to find a way to organize it. And then the other blended state is what you've talked about with your son and with my daughter as well, is freeze. Now, freeze can be total dorsal shutdown, where you are so life threatened that your body just shuts everything down. That's what happens when a tragedy happens and somebody can't remember the incident or something. You've just been totally shut down. Your body is taken offline because it's too dangerous for you. It just says, this is too dangerous, we're out of here. But in our classrooms, we also have, I didn't call it a state, I kind of call it a blended, like a response, and that's the freeze response. And the freeze response for students is when a lot of information is coming in and they're momentarily stuck between sympathetic mobilization and dorsal shutdown. Like they're not sure where they can go. And they're trying to get to ventral. They're trying to understand what you're asking of them and do what's asked. And these students can be looked at as stubborn, and they can be frustrating to be around. You can think they're non-compliant, but the nervous system in protection will say, too much. It's too much information. I don't know what to do. So I'm just momentarily between states. You want to add to that, Leanna?
Oh, I think you just described that perfectly. And yeah. I think that, and hopefully those who are here, you probably see that in the classroom. And that's again why the movement component piece is so important to me with polyvagal theory, is to understand that, is because it's a way that can bridge the gap between all different states, really. And that's why when I told Dana about school moves, and I kind of explained to her how it helped Ethan, that's how the book got started, because Dana was like, this is really brilliant, because it basically it's an activity that co-regulates everyone, right? And I don't want to forget, it also helps you as the teacher, as the adult,
right?
Because our nervous systems are we can't forget this, our own nervous system, and that is we're in blended states all day, right? And so when we can understand some of these concepts, it makes whatever we need to do for the day less stressful.
Right. It used to be we'd say fight, flight, or freeze, and we put it in sympathetic, but we're actually finding, and that's the new science of the polyvagal theory, is that freeze tends to go into the dorsal, the parasympathetic branch of the vagus nerve. So it's a combination of sympathetic with dorsal, and it can be total dorsal as well. But in classrooms, and the students I see, a lot of times they're the students with sensory processing issues, where they cannot process a lot of information at the same time. They go into that freeze response. I've taught Shalia her nervous system states, and we've done a lot of the activities that are actually in book 2. I've done with her to see how well they work. And and to try them out. And she's really responded well. And Shalia is nonverbal, as those of you who are new might not know. She's 26 now, 26, and she's nonverbal or non-speaking. She can understand. She texts very well. But I actually just say to her now, Shalia, are you frozen? Because she'll just stand there and you can see fear in her eyes and you can see tension in her body. You can see, like, I know something's expected of me, but I just can't do what's expected right now. And she'll give me a thumbs up. That's her, her signal for yes. And then she knows that I know that her nervous system at that time needs a hug. We've already decided that. We figured it out, that a hug is a connection. She needs to reconnect with me. She needs to feel safe. She needs to know that I'm not going to get mad at her for not moving quicker or for getting out of the house when we needed to. The most simple way to reset the nervous system is a sigh. And that's why we sigh. That's why you hear people sigh. It's a reset. And so she went through all the whistle programs and all those things and she really can't do the deep breathing activity. So together we sigh. And I give her a hug, and then that resets. And so she's able to move. She's moving down. Dana has that ladder, right, from the top to the bottom rung. So she's at the bottom rung of that ladder. So through that gentle movement of just a hug and some firm pressure and a little bit of rocking, she's able to move up into mobilized sympathetic. So we've gotten her out of freeze, right? Mobilized sympathetic. And then from there, we can continue together to co-regulate to move into ventral. And now we can say, what got you stuck? What can we do better next time? So that leads us to the third blended state. So we've talked about play as a blended state of ventral and sympathetic. We've talked about freeze as a blend of sympathetic and dorsal. And now we're going to talk about quietly still. Quietly still in the classroom might be when you're doing some mindfulness, or if outside the classroom you're doing meditation, those things that require, and sometimes in classrooms, some teachers require a lot of stillness and a lot of quiet from students. And I just want you to know that that's one of the most difficult states to get into. And remember our ladder. So you always have to move through sympathetic to get to dorsal, and you have to move through sympathetic to get out of dorsal back into ventral. So what happens is if you have a class of a lot of disorganized, mobilized, sympathetic kind of energy going on, and then you just want to instantly quiet and get them quietly still, it's a lot of runs on that ladder. And so what we recommend is you do some movement, some gentle movement like that. I think that is why the deep pressure routine that we do, our dots and our squeezes that most of you know, the pressing the palms and pressing up the arms. And it's still movement, but it's a gentle. And for some students, they're going to need much more activity than that to shift down. It's like it's a whole nother blended state. You have to have a lot of safety on board to go to quietly still. Yes. And if you don't have that safety on board, it's going to be difficult. And you could just go to total shutdown at that point. So if you're asking a student who has a lot of trauma to be quietly still in the classroom, they could just go all the way into shutdown.
When we talk about safety and polyvagal theory, people sometimes will go, well, yeah, we're safe. We're physically, I'm safe right here. I'm in an environment that's not, dangerous. But the inner sense of safety that polyvagal talks about really is, it's deeper than that. And so that's why for me, polyvagal theory is, yes, it's about the classroom, but it's about your internal lives and how we structure the world, how we see ourselves in the world, and how we move through the world. That this has been such a gift, especially in these, tumultuous times.